Okay, so I've seen this YouTube
When you hear
name.
somebody talking about Russian
Okay, let me just grab it. Okay, I've seen this like the name of this video, and I was like, okay, I am really curious. Obscure Russian games from my childhood. I actually no, I want to get into it right away. I'm really curious.
games. When you hear somebody talking about Russian games, you probably think of something like CS:GO or Dota, neither of which were actually made by Russian people, but because of the huge Russian player bases that they have, they will often be associated with Russian people. Maybe somebody here thought of something like Heroes 5. Great game, by the way, but not what we're going to be talking about today. Growing up, I played tons of different games, a lot of which I barely remember at this point. Many of them are more akin to fever dreams, but a big part of that were games made by Russian developers. Though a lot of these were localized at one point or another for English-speaking audiences to try broaden their horizons, many didn't actually accumulate any Western audiences and are only really known to Russian people. Today I'm going to show you guys
This is interesting. Like, I'm really fucking curious.
some of these obscure Russian games from my childhood. And before we get started, hi, my name is Angelica. Если вы еще не догадались, нет, английский не мой родной язык. Хотя в Ирландии я живу уже 19 лет, поэтому он мне типа родной. Но вообще мой родной язык это русский. By the way, if you didn't expect my level of English, you might be even more surprised to find out that I actually learned English and improved my language skills through playing video games. Time spent doing something for the mind and self-improvement is time well spent, and it's super valuable. If you're looking to add more value,
It is true. It is true. If you want to master like a language, just turn up like the change the fucking language to what you want to learn in video games. If you get if it is like a language that like you can and you can improve, like at least for English, like it is true,
to
absolutely
your
true.
life in a similar way, then I would recommend that you check out today's sponsor of this video, Brilliant. Brilliant is a tool that empowers you to learn and get smarter every day with thousands of interactive lessons in mathematics, science, programming, data analysis, and AI. What I personally love about it is that it is hands-on learning. I actually became fluent in 2 languages while playing video games, so I know firsthand just how effective this particular approach to learning is. It's really exciting that you get to try out this sort of active learning method for complicated subjects like maths and programming, outside of a traditional lecture style of learning which doesn't actually work for everybody. But you do still get that really high standard of information as you would in a university setting, for example, because all of the content on Brilliant was crafted by an award-winning team of teachers, researchers, and professionals from Stanford, MIT, Caltech, Microsoft, and Google. Learning and gaining knowledge in this way is absolutely priceless because not only can it open the door for you on brand new ventures, it can also help you level up on your current career path. Now, I understand that this is a lot easier said than done because if you're like me and you're working or you have a family, you can't just go out and study to go scale up in a meaningful way. But thanks to the Brilliant app, you can actually learn on the go with fun and engaging lessons. You might be commuting on the train, and instead of looking at cat memes, you have grasped some of the basic concepts of Python. You're just there, in real time, getting into the programmer mindset and learning how to solve complex problems in manageable chunks of code. To try everything that Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, you can go to brilliant.org/Angelikatosh, you can use the QR code here on screen, or you can just use the link down below in my description. You'll also get 20% off for an annual premium subscription. Thank you, Brilliant, for sponsoring this video. And now, I'm gonna show you guys these games in no particular order. Some of these will probably be more familiar to you, maybe not, but the first game that I want to discuss is Magia Krovi, which directly translates to blood magic, but for some reason they called the localized English
Like just look at this. Was like a CD jacket, just a CD jacket, Can you believe like do I have like a something I don't know, I don't have any gaming box, but like can you believe that like we used to buy video games, it looks like it was like it could have been like fucking like the greatest game, but in a CD jacket. This was made of like fucking how how's it called, fuck, let me get translation, fuck. Mm, this was made of cardboard. It wasn't like there wasn't like it's not, it wasn't like a CD, like a music CD type of like jacket. It was just made of cardboard and there was a game in it. Like it was so low quality.
English version, Dawn of Magic, which is why it was super confusing for me to try and find information on the game in English just out of curiosity. I was super disappointed that I couldn't actually get a hold of this first original game anywhere in Russian. It's not on Steam, it's not on GOG, only Dawn of Magic 2, which I'm told is essentially the same thing, but I am kind of noticing some differences between that and like that first original version, mainly the fact that I don't have it in Russian, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because the voice acting in English is so bad.
Return the book, young man. It looks like you have no good use for it.
That original first version that I played all those years ago is either completely unattainable or it's on some dodgy website that I just refuse to download anything off. So to put my thoughts together for this one, I had to go by existing gameplay videos and screenshots, as well as my memories of the game from almost 20 years ago. This is me playing it, by the way, on my pro-Slavic gamer setup. If you grew up in a post-Soviet country, this is what your original gaming setup probably looked like also. And maybe it still does, and if so, based. So what is Dawn of Magic? This is a Russian Diablo clone that for some reason was so deeply disturbing to me as a child that I never got very far in it, and yet somehow I managed to play quite a lot of it.
I mean, technically, like Diablo is quite disturbing, like for children. Like, give a children fucking like Diablo, like see what happens. So I guess time changed. Well, like when we people that actually like fucking like talk about like video games and do video games analytics are like, yeah, I don't understand why the fuck like the fucking game with like a bunch of blood and like people like basically like people talking about demons was like really scary to me. Did we became so fucking like did we became like so fucking like out of touch, or like it's just like did we lost all our feelings, where it's just like she just called herself like basically like weak for like look at the fucking loading screen, and she was a child and she's like, yeah, I don't understand why the fuck I was scared about like it. I was so disturbed by this video game. I can give you a bunch of reasons just from the loading screen. Like I think that I think we became like I think like something like made us like lose touch with like some with like rational feelings, where it's like, yeah, give this to a child and say, yeah, it is
I
disturbing
never got
even to adults. Like
very far in it, and yet somehow I managed to play quite a lot of it. I probably still have this somewhere in my house, but this is what the CD box looked like for the game, and eventually I guess the actual CD was just too scratched up to run, so I probably couldn't play it anymore because of that. This game had a nightmare-inducing introductory cinematic, which was slightly traumatizing, even revisiting it now as an adult. You could pick one of 4 heroes, and this is so bizarre now as an adult. You could pick
you can this look like this character looks like a generic grandma. Like generic grandma. She has like fucking like glasses. This was like this sent like, bro, you have your hero from Diablo, and then you have like fucking like blood magic, where it's like, so we had nothing better than like a grandma to fucking send, like nothing better. And Random Priest, these two look like heroes kinda, but like don't tell me that this does not look like any grandma that you saw outside, or like generic grandma from like anywhere. She has glasses, god damn it. You can see like she has glasses. Generic grandma. Oh, send her to hell. She'll fight well.
One of 4 heroes, and this is so bizarre, but stay with me. The awkward scholar. His delicate nature may have an adverse effect on his energy, yet his intellect is remarkable, so a mage class. Definitely not Harry Potter. The baker's wife. She is a friendly, plump lady who
The baker's wife, like it's like she doesn't even have like a role. She's the baker's wife.
loves to spoil people with her bread and sweet pastries.
What
While
the
her
fuck?
energy is significant, her intellect is not outstanding. I don't know, some sort of a tank class, I would guess. The Fat Friar, who is definitely not Deckard Cain.
The Fat Friar, bro. Like what, friend? What are these fucking names? The Fat Friar, the old lady,
This
like
middle-aged gentleman's experience can only be measured by the size of his stomach. Okay, I'm sorry. Middle-aged? Like, what's middle-aged here? He looks like he could be my great-grandfather. And the size of his stomach, they're calling him fat, but my man looks like he hasn't had a meal since his wife left him for the baker. Oh, wait. And finally, the weird gypsy. Okay, look, so this game was
the weird gypsy. So what a fucking like roster. Like, oh, you get the choice to fucking choose your fucking champion. You get like the baker's wife, or like the fucking weird gypsy, or the other two ones. Like, pick well. I know it's hard because like they are so fucking like, it's really difficult to choose one because they're so cool. What the fuck?
translated from Russian. Like, in the original, she was called Странная, which is actually directly translated to strange gypsy and not weird. Like, I feel like weird is a bit of a harsh term here and not really the intended one either. I think that they meant strange as in mysterious. Anyway, she has practiced the ancient mystical arts of palmistry and tarot. As a result, she has become a true expert in matters of fate and chance. But all of this aside, it's kind of wild how cool the game actually looks. Like, you can definitely tell this is old as hell, but I don't think that this aged particularly poorly. I couldn't actually begin to tell you the lore of this game.
Like, I don't know. Like, maybe I actually don't know. Like, it looks okay, but like with this type of heroes, it it is bad. But like at the same time, when you're a children, like I remember finishing like really bad games and really like enjoying it, and like then looking back and being like, but I don't know. Like, choose your own.
And what actually the whole point is. It's a lot deeper than I remember just from looking into it now. But to start off, once you've chosen your main hero, you can choose for them to be good, evil, or neutral. And I believe that this also affects your end game as well as how other characters in the game interact with you. The music in this game is really nice, and for being a Diablo clone, there's something about the game that kind of gives it its own vibe.
And she was like, I don't know, like when I played as a children, like I don't know why I remember it as a disturbing game. Look at the fucking like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is what the fuck is this like main menu?
You start
is
off in this
disturbing.
Hogwarts-looking place with all these other students, and you're kind of off from there. The game is a rather extensive manual, and to be honest, in terms of builds and that, I don't think it's as straightforward as Diablo 2 was, for example, but it is my understanding that you can do some pretty crazy things with this. There are a few downsides here, like, for example, the scaling of the mobs seems to be a bit of an issue. I've looked around online and I've seen some people complain that at one point the game gets too hard too quick. Also, a lot of people aren't really a fan of the camera, which personally I don't mind too much, but the highlight of this game for me and for like everyone
Like, it was too hard. So it was actually like a well thought game when it comes to gameplay. This is actually interesting.
else that's played it is that one song about Brantazябра.
Сон села за горой, Брантазябра ходит злой, Брантазябра ходит злой. Я с дубинкою идю, Брантазябру победю, Брантазябру победю. Ой, Брантазябра, ой, победю. Ой, Брантазябра, ой, победю.
There is absolutely no reason for
This is a vibe. This is vibe.
this to go that hard, but it does. I hope to one day play this game again and experience it for myself and maybe actually figure out the lore and finish it, which is why I didn't delve too deeply into this for this video. I kind of want to rediscover it myself, if I'm honest. So for the next game that I want to talk about, and I will be so impressed if anybody here has heard of it, is Dead Hunt. This game is both a lot more and a lot less than you'd expect. So unlike The Dawn of Magic, there's no lore here. There's no story. There is no reason for these things to be here and be the way that they are. And yet, here you
There was like more games than you think that were like FPSs and stuff, where it's like basically like 2 lines of dialogue and that's the whole story of the game. Like it is, but like no story at all. That was quite rare. But like usually though, like there is like so many games where it's like, yeah, something, go fight. Good luck.
have it. This is a first-person arcade shooter where you have to kill waves and waves of zombies, skeletons, and spiders, I think. There are 4 episodes in total with 40 missions. The whole time you are pretty much between 2 arenas, this Stonehenge-looking place and some sort of a hellish plane of oblivion, which is actually my favorite of the 2. There's not a huge amount of variety when it comes to the mob types. It really is mostly the zombies, and sometimes they wear armor or they'll have a different weapon, but that's about it. Each of the levels present a different challenge that you need to beat in order to complete the level, and that's really it. It's not otherworldly, it's not super innovative, but this game gets a massive, fat gold star for its soundtrack. The music in this game has no business going that hard. As funny as this will sound, this game has one of the most unique and memorable game soundtracks of all time. I think that this game is really about the time and the place. It's a sort of you had to be there moment. Obviously, downloading this now.
Yeah, I can get that. Like there's like a couple of games that are just like you cannot understand how fucking great the game is. The game was if you didn't play it like when it was cool, when it was great, or when it was the thing that like when it was the when it was the thing of the when it was the right time. Like
In 2025, you're not gonna feel it. For myself, it has a bit of a nostalgia factor, but 20 years ago, this was such a hell yeah moment. The inspiration for it was actually a top-down shooter game called Crimson Land. As for any other information on it, the only thing I could find was the back of the game's CD box in Russian, and the description's pretty funny. He doesn't know how to gallantly speak to women. No riz. He doesn't know any foreign
No riz.
languages. He doesn't watch TV or listen to the radio. He doesn't even know his own name. Hell, he doesn't know almost anything. He's sounding a lot like Jon Snow. But he does know a few things. How to run fast and how to pull the trigger on time. It's a bit bizarre, and for how underwhelming it is as a whole, it's actually quite thoughtful in ways that you wouldn't expect. But yeah, the highlight for me here is definitely the soundtrack, which I do recommend that you listen to in full because it really is super impressive. The next game that I want to talk to you about is Allods Online. This game I'm sure loads of you have probably heard of. Here's the thing. World of Warcraft.
Let me just check one thing real quick. Okay.
Warcraft has pretty much killed every other MMO for me. I was never able to enjoy another MMO after playing WoW, but one that I did give a solid try was Allods Online. Now, I played this way back in 2009 or even 2010, so I'm sure since then it has probably changed quite a lot and it's a very different game. Kind of like WoW has progressed a lot from those times as well. But what I do remember from it is how wrong it felt to play it. It was a really strange mixture of concepts that I thought were actually really cool and original, and some straight up rip-offs right out of World of Warcraft. I think maybe I stuck with it for a while because of how WoW-like it was, but it was in an uncanny valley kind of way. Instead of your typical elves, you had these fairy elf type people, and also there was a race where you played as these three little guys all at once. The world there felt so familiar, but different, and something was definitely off about some
It's still look great for like an old MMO. Like
of the races. Like, it just felt wrong even looking at them. I can tell this is supposed to be an orc, but there's something not right with him. It wasn't a bad world to explore for a while. I never did grasp the story or exactly what I was doing, but as with any MMO, I'm sure it was very deep and complex, and I also think that I didn't really get into it or invest myself in it too much because I played too much World of Warcraft. Not saying that it's a bad game by any means, but you do get to a certain point while you're playing it where you're kind of saying to yourself, well, I could just be playing World of Warcraft right now. I was reading some reviews to see what other people think about it. It's got a very mid kind of score overall, but the biggest gripe that people seem to have with it now is that it is very pay to win. Back when I played it, I remember it being totally free, and I don't have any recollection of any kind of in-game store or anything similar. But there you go, eventually these things, one way or another, will be subject to that kind of monetization.
yeah, usually if your game that if you have a game that is a live service starts to fail, this is the way to actually like get your fucking like get your payback, like get your last pay before your whole studio like fucking like gets destroyed by innovation. Or like, this is why like a lot of games become like, it's not a trend anymore, but it happened multiple times where like a lot of games became like pay to win, or like became free to play, but with like a lot of like microtransaction in exchange, just to actually like kind of control the damage, I'd say. Because like by going free to play, you get like new players, and before the game gets like completely forgotten, like you get some you get actually some you get actually some money back, because you get to understand like, as much as like we as players we enjoy these games as games, the studios that actually produce them, they need to fucking pay their employees, and they need to fucking like keep themselves like they need they need money. And so that's why like it was a trend. It doesn't happen anymore basically, but there was a trend where like a lot of like um MMOs with subscriptions became like free to play, but with more pay to win, or microtransactions that are not pay to win, but in this vibe. And that was just to yeah to have like a last to have like a last chance to actually not close the studio, because like back in the day, it wasn't like like it like studios were not like such like juggernauts, right? It wasn't like it was there was like more like with like indie gaming these days, like it is something that like actually like get kind of like counterbalance. So at the end of the day, like nothing changed, right? Technically in terms of numbers, because now there's lot more actors, but at the same time, like yeah, back in the day, like your game starts to fucking like become unpopular. This was like a great option, and as much as like I like to like it was sad for the players, uh well, the studio, it like making your game like pay to win or add like microtransaction to it, even if it was predatory, gave a chance to the studio to release another game, so to stay in business. So it's actually like not that bad, and it's actually not that disrespectful. It's predatory, yeah, but you gotta understand that like money doesn't flow in this industry the way the way people think, you know? Like not everyone is a fucking billionaire like with a bajillion money to fucking like spend to fucking for their fucking project, right? Not everyone is a corporation, and people have to fucking pay pay like they need to pay to win themselves kind of to stay in business. So it was predatory, it was sometimes unfair, it was sometimes sad, yeah, but it was necessary. Like some, not always, but for some studios it was necessary, and I'm pretty sure some studios actually like got to release another game, stay in business, or like actually get have enough like resources to release this like great game before instead of like just like closing or like selling their IP, thanks to these type of changes.
People are saying that the pay to win here is so bad that it's almost pay to exist, because it's very hard to keep up with other players if you don't cough up the money. And that review is from 2023, by the way. If that really is the case, then I think that that's terrible. But again, like I said, a lot of these things eventually.
Yeah, pay to win is one thing. Pay for cosmetics is one thing, but pay to exist sounds a lot like real life. Like this sounds like kind of
Do turn into that, and if I'm honest, Allods seems to have that sort of aesthetic where it would have turned into that sort of game one day. I don't know what it is about it, but looking at it makes me feel like I'm about to get a pop-up on my discounted crystals deal, which ends in 10 hours, so hurry up. Now this last game that I want to talk about is super niche, and if you're not Russian and you somehow know about its existence, I will be absolutely wowed, because there's no way. Now for this, you need a little bit of background. In Russian folklore, we have the tales of the three legendary strong men, or bogatyri. Each have their own separate legends and tales. You had Ilya Muromets, Dobrynya Nikitich, and Alyosha Popovich. In some places, they're described as the original superheroes. They were these really strong, big men, fictional but some parts perhaps based in reality or real stories from the regions, really an image of peak masculinity and an example that young Russian boys and men should follow. There were these animated films made about them that I watched when I was a kid, and they were quite good, sort of humoristic, not too serious, not like the typical Soviet cartoons about legends and similar stories that you would watch. But yeah, they were quite good, and I remember our favorite being the one about Alyosha Popovich. The film was great, but even better still was the point-and-click adventure game that was made based on it. I am a huge fan of this genre of games. I really loved Monkey Island games when I was a kid, and there's also an unfinished Warcraft adventure game, so it's based on Thrall's escape from Durnhold, which I do hope to cover on this channel at some point because that's a whole other world to explore. And as far as those types of games go, this was great. The art is beautiful. The music was also brilliant, and All the vibes that you would expect from old Russian legends and fairy tales are captured here so perfectly. From
This
the
is really
bright and
interesting.
lively village to the dark and eerie forest, the hut with the chicken feet. For me, of course, it's really nostalgic, but if you haven't played it before and you want to get a feel for those sort of Russian fairy tale vibes, I would highly recommend it. Although I'm really not sure where exactly you would get it in 2025, but if somebody knows, let me know. And that particular game kind of follows his story as it is in the animated film, as it is in his legends. A bit of a hidden gem, and one that I think every little Russian kid should experience at one point or another. But yeah, that about covers it for the obscure Russian games from my childhood. The ones that I can remember, at least. I think that in part, these games have influenced my overall taste for video games, even if in the smallest ways. Kids from Eastern Europe in general, I think we all grew up with similar fairy tales and themes in stories, and seeing them in games and being able to experience them outside of somebody reading a story to you or watching a film is something really special. I think that some of these things have elements that I always look for in games, even now. It's a sort of unexplainable thing where you don't necessarily have to have a game based in Eastern Europe, but it's the way that people behave, the way that certain themes are presented. I think that's why I like Polish games also. It's just in ways that I cannot exactly point out, they make you feel like home. None of the games that I mentioned here are by any means masterpieces, and mostly they don't really hold up today, but because of those elements that I mentioned, I just have such a sweet spot for them, and it's so nice to go back to them and explore them, especially now as an adult who has played so many mostly Western games. Please let me know in the comments below if you've ever played any of them, if you've heard of them, or if you're now going to try them. I'm super curious to know. And I would love to hear from non-Russians as well, what they think about all of this. But yeah, that's it for today's video. I do hope you enjoyed. As always, please be sure
I
to
did
like and
enjoy it.
subscribe. I really appreciate all the support. Big shout out to my channel members. Thank you guys for being here.
This was really great. This was really great. I saw her content, like she does like really good and interesting content, but like on this one, like this was quite the blast. Like I am quite surprised that like I got to learn so much about the video game industry and some obscure video games randomly from. Thank you so much for this video.